Hi, everyone. This is Jason Holland. I am the owner and travel butler of Travel Simplicity in Pennsylvania in the United States. And I have the distinct pleasure today of introducing you to one of our local travel butlers in Japan. This is Avi. Avi, hello.
Hi, Jason. Good good evening for you. It's a good
Yeah.
morning for us.
Yeah, I had to stay up a little bit after hours this day so that we could do this. And I know that you're working on a Saturday because of the same thing. So I appreciate that very much.
Oh, it's a good time. You see, it's a sunny day. I'm few minutes from my house, but you see the nice village here, so it's easy to get out into the country,
It's lovely.
and I like it very much. Yes.
Where are you at in relation to Japan?
I am based in Kyoto, and my house is in the north part of the city, so a little bit north from my house, about 10 minutes drive. There is a beautiful small village called Ohara, and this is where we are now. Actually, we are in one part of it. We like sending people here also. It's a nice walk in the village. You see the farmers there over there walking here, and nice nature. Actually, last week I went with my two children up the mountain behind us, and we had a nice hike with the dog. And the whole place in general, I like it very much because of I like very much countryside in Japan.
It's a special place. I have a fondness for Japan. I think about Japan often because, believe it or not, we have a little, um, not a very good one maybe, but we have a little Japanese garden out back, and
Ah, okay.
it is complete with a hand carved granite Japanese lantern that I had shipped over um, after a trip that my wife and I were on.
Uh-huh. You know, I came to Japan originally in, I think first time was 89, and I came for 3 months. And then I stayed for 1.5 years. I skipped 1 year in university, and then I went to university, and then finishing university, I came about 25 years ago and never left. So yeah, I fell in love in Japan. And one of the things I really like is the countryside. I love the countryside of Japan. Places that can be very picturesque. People are extremely kind and welcoming, and I really like it there.
Where did you come from originally?
Originally from Israel, and I remember a friend of mine telling me, you can go to Japan and build American log houses or Canadian log houses for American company, and you can earn 3 months university, 1 year of university in 3 months more. So I came for 3 months, and I lived near Mount Fuji building these log houses, and then I fell in love. I started doing Japanese archery, which I'm doing until today.
Really?
And yeah, and I started doing bonsai and then Zen. I even left that company and went to the mountains and lived in a Zen monastery for some time. Up in the mountain, no electricity, water come from the river, a beautiful countryside. And I used to do the archery in the mountains and come to visit my teacher on weekends down in the city. And then I moved to Tokyo, and then I looked for another Zen monastery, which I went for another 6 months. And after I came back to Japan, and then I left to university, and coming back to Japan, I went to that monastery for 3 months. It's interesting, for 3 years, sorry. So I stayed there altogether 3.5 years. And it's in a small town, about 80 kilometers. So it's about 60 miles north of Kyoto, in a town called Obama.
And that's where,
So
yeah, and that's where you ended up settling down then.
So Obama is where I was in the monastery, and then I moved from there to Kyoto, which is the old
Okay.
capital of Japan. And since then I live in Kyoto, and I think every traveler that come to Japan really wants to see Kyoto also.
Yeah.
It's the hub of traditional culture. There is lots of craftsmen still living here and doing the craftsmanship, and lots of old buildings and beautiful temples. When you think about Japan, many times of the images, so Kyoto is definitely a place. You mentioned you have a garden, so Kyoto is the place of Japanese gardens. It has huge amount of gardens. Because the emperor used to live here for many years, around them there was big, and the nobility was here, so they developed, and the temples. So lots of culture around that developed, including the gardens. So Kyoto is definitely the capital of the garden. And actually right here, up there, there is very famous temple called Sanzenin that has a beautiful garden too.
What are some of your, living in Kyoto, what are some of your
Mhm.
favorite places? What are some of your favorite moments that you and the family like to enjoy?
So one of them is definitely the nature around, like here. Even there are even hot springs that I can go and bath if I want, right here in the village. And somewhere behind me there are some hot springs that I can go and go in. I like very much going into some of the gardens. There are more famous one and less famous one, so I like that very much. I like the walk along the river because not long ago we had the cherry blossom. I think you can still see there is a few cherries behind me there, like that's still blooming. So going along the river, you see the whole line of trees.
Yeah.
And you know, Kyoto has a lot of those hidden treasures around the city center, not around the very famous market called Nishiki Market. There are all these small streets that when you walk around, you every time you find these small, beautiful houses that turn into nice shop, and how the design is kind of innovative but keep the tradition. So you see an old house with a kind of innovative design in it. So that combination makes Kyoto very special. It also goes for craftsmen. Many times you go and meet them when you go around in town. Um, like I'm doing archery, and one of my bows, I have few of them, but one of my bows was made by a guy who is 21st generation.
Wow.
21st generation of bow makers. His son is with him, so we cannot say 22 because that's not nice for the father, but 21st generation of bow makers. So the traditions can go very long.
That's incredible. Now,
Yeah.
what makes Japanese, um, a Japanese bow different from another type of bow?
Um, First, Japanese bow is very tall. It can go up to I'm not sure in your measurements, but over 2 meters.
Wow.
So it's like quite tall, and you don't hold it in the center. You hold it in the third of it. Um, Also, the bow, you put the arrow not on the side that your eyes is above, but on the other side. So it's more difficult to aim with that. And in times, the Japanese bow became connected to Zen, so it's kind of a spiritual practice. So you don't shoot just to hit the target. It's kind of meditation in motion, if you want.
Okay.
So basically, when I'm doing the bow, I'm actually it's a repeating of the same action again and again, and it's very much going to a meditative with a meditative element. So it's very interesting how to see that.
That sounds like a wonderful thing to experience. Is that
Yeah,
something
it's one
that,
of the martial. It's interesting because it's one of the martial arts that less um, move to the West. I know that in Europe now there are much more than before, but still, it's compared to other martial arts, it didn't go out of Japan as much.
is that something that people who come to Japan are able to experience or able to, observe, or is that more of a
Yes,
private thing?
actually, yes. We do offer that sometimes. There are some limitations, of course, because using the bow can be quite difficult. It's not easy as other bows. Also, you use a special glove to hold the string, and if you make a mistake, you can actually hurt yourself. We have actually we had a request for August of a child who wanted to do Japanese archery, and because of the situation, they might not come. They still hope to come, but it's on hold at the moment. We have to see, and we arrange it for them. Sometimes I myself take people and do it with them. Last time I had again somebody who a teenage kid who really wanted to do that archery, and we did it in. I have my own place also, so we went there and did it together.
How old are, if you are Japanese and want to get involved, um, When do kids usually start that?
So it's very common in Japan to have it in school. Usually the high school or junior to high school, they started. And the club of our Japanese archery in schools is quite common. And many times they continue after school, they go to university and they continue university clubs and then as adults. So in the place where I'm doing, there are many people who came from school, from high school, and now they are students, and some of them already adults that do that also. But usually Japanese start that in about junior and junior high.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about
We
the
have some,
food?
sorry, the food.
What about the food?
Okay, so interestingly, Kyoto is not famous. Dozo. Yes, Japanese are very polite. It's so that my daughter holding the camera, so they ask her permission to pass. um, Interestingly, Kyoto is not famous for sushi. So I know many people in the West think Japanese food is sushi, but there is much more to that. And the reason is that we are away from the sea, about 60 miles to each side. So Kyoto is very famous for the vegetables, and you can see the fields behind me. Um, and this village is one of the main suppliers for the city. So it's very famous for its vegetables. Tofu also, I guess you know, and tofu because of the water, that it's very good, and this is a very important ingredient. So water in Kyoto, which also make good sake. Kyoto is also famous for sake because of that. Um, and one of the dishes that very much developed all over Japan, but it's very important in Kyoto because of in the history, the royal family and the nobility used to be here, is what we call kaiseki, which is a multi-course. Have you experienced that, Jason?
I did. I stayed in
Okay,
Ryokan
ryokan.
outside of
Okay.
Hakone one time.
Yeah, so ryokan is Japanese traditional inn. You will go into a multi-course meal where there is no main dish, basically. I mean, it's more. I always say that it's horizontal; it's not vertical. So, and the beauty of that is the presentation is stunning, and you get all these dishes with different presentation. It's always adjust to the season. It's very important for them, and you taste all kinds of things from different directions, different tastes, different colors, the combination make it in a very holistic experience, and it's very beautiful. And one of the things about Japanese food was described very nicely by a chef who is a kaiseki chef. He said, the way I pay respect to nature, and for him when you say to nature is like to gods, because the main not the main, but one of the the original religion of Japan is Shinto, which is kind of animistic religion. Think about worshiping nature. So when you say, when I pay respect to nature, when I pay respect to the gods, is not by creating new tastes, but enhancing the natural taste of the ingredients. And you feel that very much in kaiseki. So you enhance the natural taste. So the Japanese taste is not very strong, but it's enhancing the natural. And this is happening also with gardens. It's happening with many aspects of Japanese life, enhancing nature and not creating nature.
I love that. I love that with the gardens for sure.
Yes.
How natural they look, and yet how I mean, you can watch them brushing the rocks and you
Yeah.
know taking care of every little detail, but it's done immaculately, but it looks very natural too. I
Exactly.
would imagine then that the food is also quite healthy with that.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. I mean, I eat Japanese food on daily basis, and it's quite balanced. Naturally, it's quite balanced, and Japan is famous for that. Um, I know that the people here in the village, the food they eat is really, when you go into the daily dietary, it's really balanced with lots of vegetables, and they will have some fish usually, and or meat, but it's not too oily. It's not over with calories. But and this way, Japan is one of the highest, lifespan in the world, which is also an issue for Japan, because now it's also the oldest country. I mean, the oldest population. I'm just a guy going to pass here, and you will see an example of that population. He's going to. どうぞすいません. You will see the old guy passing by. Yeah. So absolutely, the food is really it's pleasure. And again, I suggest many people who come to Japan. It's very nice to try good sushi here, but try there's so much more than sushi. I mean, the variety, and many people are not aware of that. Also, I noticed that what you eat overseas is not what the same as Japan. So it's good to come and try different things that are here. So definitely, it's a nice thing to do.
So, Avi, I have a question about sake.
Yes.
Hot or cold?
Ah, yes, I've been asked many times by people. So it depends on what you like. What do you feel? If you come out from a cold winter day and you really want to warm up, so it's okay to have a hot one. And it depends on the sake also. Some sake, when you heat them up, they are less good, and sometimes it will be a little bit enhanced. But in general, I can tell you that the higher level of sake, if you heat them up, generally speaking, it's not good. So you want to have them cooled.
Okay.
But again, it's really a matter of preferences. So there is no hot or cold. Sometimes I really want a cool thing, even in a winter day when I come in and it's warm and what matching what I eat. So I would like it cool or hot. So it's a matter of preferences.
Okay.
And if the guy knows enough about sake, he will use the right sake to heat it up. Otherwise, it can downgrade the sake if you heat up the wrong one.
That makes sense. Well,
Yeah.
I have one last thing. I was, oftentimes when people think of, Kyoto, they also think
Hmm.
of geisha. And what, what is the role of geisha, and um, what do you think about that? What do you think about experiencing that kind of culture?
Absolutely. This is actually one of the subjects that are very close to me. You asked me about living here. What is one of the things? So one of the things is definitely the world of geisha. That for me, it's amazing. Living here, sometimes I see them walking in the streets and that. So it's very nice. But professionally, I meet them a lot. And I used to have a very, very good relationship with one of them because we used to work together for over 10 years. Um, until she retired about 2, 3 years ago. So she used to tell me lots of stories. So I would say this way, the place of geisha today in modern Japan is actually they keep the hardcore of Japanese culture. What they do and the way they trained and the way they do things is really the way that Japan used to be many years ago. So that tradition kept in its hardcore with the Japanese. So if you really want to see the Japanese culture in its best, so this is the way. It's not just the dancing, it's the way of entertaining. They are basically entertainers in traditional way. So the way they put the kimono and the chosen kimono and how they choose it, actually they design their own kimonos. Um, and then the way they move, the way they talk. For Japanese, they really can hear that the differences when geisha talks. It's a very delight Japanese. And then, um, of course, the dances, but the whole story behind how the training goes is like in old days. Uh, Today, a girl to become a geisha, she can start at 15, which is the minimum education, compulsory education laws in Japan. Before that, she has to be in school, but then many times they start at 15. They be training for 1 year, and then they become what we call maiko, which is, many people call it apprentice geisha. I see it more as a one stage of its own and not just apprentice. And then they become geisha, and they can be geisha until the oldest geisha I know is in her 90s.
Wow.
And some of them, of course, retire. But generally speaking, they really keep the culture at the moment. They're hardcore there, and they're entertainer in very traditional way. So they keep the old traditions of music and dance and way of entertainment, and also restaurants. The way of eating, usually you can take geisha to a very casual restaurant, but many times when you do a full thing with her, it will be with kaiseki and a place to dance and so on. We do it with quite many guests, even families with children, and we have lots of fun with that. We even play with geisha during the evening. So we have a dinner, and the people ask her, and it's very casual. And because we know them so well, I know them. I choose specific geishas that I know they are good, and they're very cooperative. And then we have nice talk with them about their lives, about their, and simply seeing also the woman behind the geisha and the geisha part. Gei, the meaning of gei is art, and sha is a person. So woman of art. and you learned about this art of them and this is very important part of their life to be a better performers and how they train for that. It's very interesting. It's very interesting, Evelyn and Ross doing.
And do they still do native Japanese tend to still employ geisha as well and have them entertain them as well?
Of course, it's not something for tourists. The geisha world is still, and its core is for Japanese. There are many more foreigners, of course, and many because the tourism expanded in Japan, and many people are interested in that. So, and we have the access, but still, it's very big. I mean, the Japanese clientele is very strong in the geisha world. It's still for Japanese, original. It's not something made for tourists. Absolutely, it's original. In that sense, it's very authentic.
Well, that's wonderful. It's been a lot of fun talking with you. Thank you for showing us your village. Thank you for talking a little bit more about the beauty of Japan, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jason, and I hope things will change soon, and we can see you coming over here and enjoying those places here in Japan. Thank you very
Love
much.
that too. And I think in the future we're actually going to do a talk in your office as well.
Yes, you asked me before about Kyoto. So one of the things really moving Kyoto in Japan is tradition is continuous innovation, and we build the office around that using craftsmanship and innovative ways, using innovative craftsmen to design the office. So it will be very interesting to learn about Japan through that.
I look forward to that. Till next time, my friend. Thank you very much, Javi.
Yeah, thank you very much. Enjoy your evening.